This is True Buzz, that Mary J. Now we ain't new to this. For my stoners and for my cannabis enthusiasts, never heard a show as good as this. Number one, it's the best. Bringing in many special guests in the industry of cannabis. Business owners to growers, even artists you know of. So sit back and just roll up. Perfect show for my smokers. True Buzz, hey.
This is what we do. We're chopping it up with my buddy Bryce here at the True Bud Show podcast. Bryce's third time being on, actually technically the fifth, I think. We shot a podcast or two or just bullshit on the mics, and then honestly, I got too busy, man. I'm moving to this new spot. You see we're in a little different setup, and then Bryce was cool enough to roll through again. So
let's do it.
Thanks for rolling through, bro.
Dude, of course.
So what's good, man? How's your day going, first of all, and we'll get into the nitty-gritty.
Life is good. Life is good. Started on the charts, doing some, basically what I call back testing, going through, drawing up some test trades and whatnot, working with my my testing, my trade partner. Shout out to Kuaku, my trading boy down in Miami. He's my dude on the chart, so we chopped up for a few hours. Just went back,
So how's that been in this very crazy time, bro?
Very challenging. Not going to sugarcoat it. It's been
it must be very hard.
Challenging.
So yeah, fill us in, man.
Yeah.
I already know some, but to anybody who hasn't heard what you got going on.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm learning. I am attempting to figure out how to become a day trader. So when people talk about being a day trader, there's two real main ways of trading, and I'm very focused on one. But the first one is known as spot trading. And this is what most people think of when they hear day trading, meaning you get on in the morning, and spot trading means you're going to buy something. Like, let's say you're going to buy some Apple stocks. And the idea is you're going to physically buy an Apple stock with the idea that it's going to go up in value by the end of the day. And then you sell that Apple stock for profit.
Sorry to interrupt, but does that have to do with spot pricing on gold and silver and just any stock in general? Is the spot price
Yes, spot price just means like the market price currently.
Okay.
So the spot price for like gold and silver, which obviously you and I have talked about before, it's constantly changing out throughout the day, right? So that means if spot for silver, let's say it's $18 today, that's the current price today. So silver is a perfect example. If you were day trading silver, you could buy it for $18 an ounce, and then hopefully when you sell it for $20, right? So you bought it at 18, went up to 20, you sold it, you made $2 profit, right? So that's the idea behind spot trading. So I'm not specifically focused on spot trading. I'm doing something a little bit different, where you're not actually doing spot trading. You're not physically buying like an ounce of silver or like an Amazon or Apple stock with the idea it's going to go up and sell it. You can actually do something called, people refer to it as different things like the derivatives market or these different like Forex markets. Whereas rather than in spot where you're physically buying and selling the stock or whatever you're doing, in the Forex or derivatives market, you're basically betting on the direction of the market. So like, let's say you could actually do this on the silver chart. So you could pull up the silver chart, and if you think the value of silver is going to go up, you would quote unquote buy the market. You're not physically buying any silver. You're basically just saying, I'm betting that the silver chart is going to go up in value. So like, let's say without actually holding any silver. So you are gambling on the direction of the market. So you could say, hey, I'm going to enter a trade when silver is at $18, and I'm going to exit my trade when it goes up to $18.10. So from $18 to $18.10, there was obviously 10 cents of value increased. So you're basically betting on that. And there's all these metrics and pips and things are called for units of measurements to measure that. And you can risk a certain amount. It's kind of like going to the casino. So you could bet $5. That's going to go from here to here. Or you can bet $20. But the cool thing about this is you can also do it the other way, where you can short the market, right? And this is what's cool, and unlike spot. Because if you think about spot trading, if you bought an ounce of silver for $18, if it goes down to $17 and you sell it, you just lost $1, right? Well, that's what spot is. So with spot, you're really limited only to one way in the direction of the market.
Is there a better payoff though with spot?
No, not necessarily.
No? Okay.
It will depend. I mean, it really depends on how you look at it. It really depends on how you look at it, because when you're not in spot and you're in these like derivatives market or Forex, or there's all these different terminology for it, you can increase the leverage so you can win more or lose more. There's much more risk. It's much more complex. You need much more education and risk management.
So the way I'm kind of looking at it from just an outside perspective is spot is more like the individual, where the other way is kind of like a mutual fund in a way, like all these other things kind of together.
Not necessarily. But I see where your mind's going, but not necessarily. So think about it in the simplest way. Just think about kind of like what I mentioned. Like you could buy, let's use a stock, because if people are thinking silver, they're thinking I'm going to the store and buying like
let's use a cannabis stock. Let's say Canopy Growth Corporation.
Perfect. Okay, yeah, let's talk about Canopy. So you could buy a Canopy stock. And the idea is that if I physically bought a stock, like let's say through my Charles Schwab brokerage account.
Okay, so I get what you're saying now.
Yeah.
So why would I'm just confused why anybody would want to do the latter and not own it.
Because you don't have to own it. Because let's say you bought a Canopy stock today and it goes down in value. Now you're just waiting for the Canopy stock to come back.
I'm confused. Isn't that the game? So I'm confused with this other way. You're not.
I understand.
So the other way is not as risky, essentially.
No. It can be much more risky. So here, for example, let's say this. Let's say Canopy, the Canopy stock, right? Let's say it's at $100 today. And you think, just based on technical analysis, or maybe you read some inside stuff, or you know a buddy who works at Canopy, things aren't looking good, right? Or maybe you know there's some legislation going on that's about to kill the industry or whatever. And you're like, I think this is going to go down, right? You know what I'm saying? Let's say you think it's going to go from $100 down to $80.
If only it was that high.
Right? I know, right? But, for easy math. So imagine, right? Imagine if Canopy today was at $100 and you, Jack, thought it was going to go down to $80. Can you make a trade today? No. Because you're not going to buy a stock if you think it's about to go down, right?
So the other one's essentially only if you're trying to short.
Well, no, both. You can do it either way. That's what's cool about this, because in the spot world, you're only going to make money if the direction goes up. If you bought Canopy for $100, it has to increase to $101 or $110 or $120, and now you're selling it for profit, right? That makes sense, right?
Yeah, well,
you can only make money if it's going up, really.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But if you're not doing spot and you're in the derivatives market, Forex market, whatever you want to call it, you can actually short the market. So if it's at $100 and you think it's going to go down to 80, you just put a sell or short the market. So when it goes down, you make money. Well, that's because you got the direction correct. You're gambling on the direction.
When you say Forex, it is typically, though, shorting the market.
No, it's either or. It doesn't matter. You can do it either way.
So I'm just trying to get to the bottom exactly, though, still of what exactly Forex is then. So you're essentially buying pieces. You're essentially buying stocks of something.
I have the perfect analogy.
Okay, yeah,
I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, go. That's what I'm looking for.
This is the perfect analogy. Let's say you and I want to go to Canterbury, right? Like the horse racing, right? So we're going to go to the horse racing show and we're going to gamble. So if we're betting on horse number 37, are you and I buying a piece of the horse? No. We're gambling that this horse is going to win. We're not buying a piece of the horse. We're not buying a stock of the horse company. We're not owning any piece of the horse. We're just gambling on the outcome. That's essentially what Forex is. Now, what's cool about this is you can gamble it on it either way. You can gamble if a stock is going to go down or up. So this allows you to trade the markets both ways, and you get in and out of the market much faster. Because if you go and buy a stock of a company, you have to buy the stock. The stock comes now into your portfolio. It's in your portfolio. So then you want to sell it. It leaves your portfolio. There's more things going on, but more so you're like, ooh, this chart's going up and down, up and down. I think it's going to go up or down. Click, click. But you're winning very quickly, in and out of the market very, very quickly. But you have to
be on your level or somebody on that level to make it worth it. Correct?
Oh, yeah.
You have to be monitoring the charts on an hourly or 24-hour basis.
It depends on how you want to trade.
So if you're from somebody like me who just buys things they believe in, this necessarily you wouldn't even want to think about.
No, not necessarily. Not necessarily, to be totally honest with you. And that wouldn't really make sense unless you got into like the nitty-gritty details to understand it more.
I'm saying somebody that doesn't have any knowledge, that has no concept of the details of anything about
this is not a good idea.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I'm saying. It's like somebody like me, essentially, who will just buy like certain things I believe in, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And then so I'm not monitoring. It's like, for me, everything I buy is like, this is for 5, 10, 20 years.
Perfect. Yeah, then this is not for people.
Yeah, okay.
This would be
Yeah,
much
yeah.
more interactive.
Yeah, this is quick. You gotta, you're
Yeah.
really, and I know we've talked about it before, and that's why I feel stupid, like not knowing everything you're saying.
No.
So
I
it's
did not
basically
understand
essentially
any of
really playing on the market as a whole on a like minute to hourly to daily basis.
Absolutely. Yeah. So there's different types of trading. Some people, maybe you've heard of something called swing trading. Maybe you've heard that before, where someone's going to buy, or once again, so I don't want to use it. I'm going to stop using the word buy and sell because I think that might be a little bit confusing or ambiguous. You're basically betting on the direction of the market. So for example, let's dive into an actual example. So a lot of people have heard of what's called the Dow Jones. A lot of people have heard of that index. So the Dow Jones represents the 30 just massive companies here in the United States, pretty much like the 30 largest companies, like big blue chip stocks. Think IBM, and 3M. These are monumental companies.
I always interrupt with stupid questions.
No, dude, you have great questions.
Okay, so my question would be so it's only the top 30 on that.
On this specific index. So there's tons of indexes.
So on the specific Dow Jones index, the top 30.
Yeah.
Is that number 25 to 35th place, like 30th place changing out often, or 29 to 30?
No, they're selected.
You know what I mean?
They're selected generally. These are like huge companies. Probably the stock market, whoever, like the New York stock market, whoever created the index. No, not at all. I mean, they're just creating an index.
There could technically be a number 50 doing better business.
Yeah.
Making way more money and potential better money for the consumer, but there's somebody there's some decision maker saying no.
Well, I mean, they're always getting reviewed. They're always getting reviewed by whoever runs the index or who chooses the index at the stock market.
Who does that?
I have no idea. Someone at the New York Stock
I went down on out.
No, you're fine. That's actually a really good question. Honestly, I've never really thought about it, to be totally honest with you, because it doesn't really matter.
Doesn't not?
It really doesn't matter. It really doesn't, because I mean, so here. Let me jump back. I think this is gonna. No, you're good. It's actually a really good question, Jack. Now it's provoking. You're making me think about that, because I don't know. But because it's honestly not that relevant, but from an education standpoint, I do think it's fascinating. So for example, let's go back with the Dow Jones. Okay. So when you're looking at the Dow Jones, this is moving up and down every single day. Okay. But when you look at it, it's just one number going up and down. This represents all 30 companies. Okay. It's like a mutual fund, essentially. Think about a mutual fund, like, for example, the S&P 500. Maybe this is a better example. Most people are familiar with the S&P 500. It's what most people's 401ks in the United States is based on. So every 2 weeks when people are putting money into their 401k, what's really happening is, let's say you work for, I don't know, you work for Apple. My goodness, you're a rich engineer and you're putting money into your 401k. There's a really good chance that the majority of your 401k is going to the S&P 500 unless you've gone in and messed with it. But if it's going into the S&P 500, what that means is when you, every 2 weeks, it's coming out of your paycheck and it's going into this mutual fund, Apple, because you work at Apple, they're just buying shares of that mutual fund. And that mutual fund is going to be based on the S&P 500. So you're not buying 500 different companies. You're buying one unit that represents the 500 companies. Okay. So now to go back into the Forex world, like I'm talking about, if you're looking at the S&P 500 chart, it's going up and down. You only see one number. You don't see 500 different numbers because it represents 500 different companies, right? But it's one number. So that's known as an index. So if I think that index is going up in value today, I can gamble and say, I think this is going to go up. I'm gambling on the direction of the market. So I'd be buying the market or longing the market. If I think that value of the index is going to go down, I'm shorting it or selling it. But I'm not actually physically buying shares of the S&P 500. I'm gambling and betting on the direction of the index. Hopefully that makes sense. So I can always click in or out, up or down. It's basically up or down, up or down.
Have you been, I don't know if it's too much info. Or
No, you're fine.
Have you been shorting lately in your bets?
Yes.
I imagine so.
Yeah, the majority of my stuff is shorting, for sure. I mean, the market's absolutely tanking. I mean, tanking.
And we talked about it as homies. It's like, that's a crazy time to be doing this, bro.
It's a very exciting time. It's interesting because it depends. I mean, obviously, everything is easier looking back in life, especially in investing. Because everyone's like, oh, my goodness. What's the date today? July 14th, 2022, right?
I thought I was about to be in a sci-fi movie for a second.
You're like, shit, what day is it? Well, so what's funny about that is because like, investing, it's always so easy looking back. You're like, oh, shoot, I wish I'd bought Bitcoin when it was at $500 a Bitcoin, right? Everybody's like, oh, it's so easy looking backwards. So looking back 6 months ago, everyone's like, oh, I should have just shorted the market because it's just been going down, down, down. It's so easy to say it now. But in the meantime, it's going up and down very violently, up and down, up and down. But it's still going down a staircase. But it's like a violent fall down the staircase. Some days way down, way up, way down, way up. So theoretically, once the market was going up and it kind of made that turn, and now we're at the top of the stairs looking down, we have slippery shoes on. What we really should have done is we should have just shorted the market and just held on. And it would have just gone down and down and down. And you could have made tons of money. There are people who have made a lot of money shorting the market. So it depends on how you're trading. I'm doing something a little bit more interactive just because it's my style of trading. This is what I personally like, where I'm not doing swing trading. I'm not holding trades for days.
Damn swinger.
Right? I'm not a swinger, right? So I do basically more like in and out trading very quickly. Like sometimes I'll be in a trade for 10 minutes. Sometimes I'll be in a trade for 60 minutes. At max, usually a few hours.
See, that's another whole level to the game where...
Yeah.
That's why it's so awesome talking, because I'm on the whole other side. And I don't have much
Yeah.
money to invest at all.
Yeah.
But it's just like the long-term game versus to be in that short-term,
Yeah.
you got to be in it.
Yeah, and a lot of people and a lot of very educated people think it's actually really stupid to do the in and out trading. But the market is fractal. What I mean by that is this. Like if you look at an onion, right? And all of a sudden you look at the onion, right? And you pull apart the onion, what's on the inside? Just another layer. You take out another layer. It all looks the same. So like what happens on bigger time frame charts happens on the lower time frame charts. Hopefully that makes sense. So it's like once you start understanding the patterns, you start to realize, whoa, the same thing that happens technical analysis on over the course of a week happens in the course of 5 minutes. It's the same patterns. It's fractal. Actually, a better example is think about a huge head of broccoli. This is actually it's probably the best example I've ever heard. If you think about a massive head of broccoli, let's say it's the size of a basketball, right? You see all these things. But then if you actually go down to one little like floral or floret or whatever they're called, and you look at it, it looks the exact same as the big broccoli, doesn't it? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's how charts actually work. And I wish I understood that 2 years ago when I got started with this. But it's the best piece of advice that I could probably give to someone if they want to get into this is understand how things look like from far away on bigger time frames. Like look at a week worth of data at once and then zoom into what does 10 minutes look like. And you're going to realize they look very similar. Now it's trickier, but that allows you, in my opinion, a better lifestyle because I don't want to take a trade and then have that trade running for 10 days. My mind's thinking about it. My mind's on it. I'm waking up, checking my phone in the middle of the night. Am I up? Am I down? It's too much. And so I realize, okay, it's fractal. So if I can just understand how to do this and think quicker, much, much, much quicker, and still maintain proper risk management where I'm not losing tons of money if I lose, because everybody wins and loses. You're just trying to win more than you lose. So if you're like, okay, if I can do this on a fractal much more short term, I can be in and out of the market. And I either won today or I lost today or a combination thereof, but I'm done with the charts. So my goal is to be on and off the charts every day, anywhere from 2 to 4 hours. Ideally, I'm trying to get down to 2 hours. But right now, I set aside 4 hours a day, Monday through Friday. So about 20 hours a week, specifically trading. And ideally, it'll get down to 10 is the goal.
Oh, shit. Okay.
That's the goal. Yeah.
And that's a good, I guess, for what I'm about to ask you is for somebody, who would be trying to get in the game and essentially, let's say, do the same exact thing you are.
Okay.
What would you tell somebody if I was like, yo, dude, I'm gonna start trading like tomorrow, like you are?
Yeah.
Like, what would like setting the expectations proper? Because I feel like a lot of media and shit out there, especially with the like recession and all this shit going on, like, oh, get some quick money fast and start investing in stocks. It's like,
yeah.
And I think most people with like a brain are like, that's not really gonna happen unless you know the game really well. So, what would be your advice to somebody trying to trade in this like tumultuous time?
So I would say you have to make a decision between two things. That's a great question, Jack. I really wish I heard what I'm about to say, 2 years ago when I really got started in this, is make a decision on what style of trader you want to be. The first one is you want to be a spot trader, meaning kind of like what you're doing. Hey, I believe in, let's say, Bitcoin. Let's just use Bitcoin for this example, because most people have heard of Bitcoin. People are familiar with Bitcoin. It's really volatile. Everybody wishes what they got in 10 years ago and they'd be driving Lambos, right? But this is a really good example for spot trading, and this is really relevant right now, is let's say you want to get into Bitcoin when it drops down. No one knows when that's going to happen. But if you're someone who wants to buy something and just forget about it, I don't want to manage it, I don't want to think about it, this is what you want to wait for. The Federal Reserve has been what's doing called quantitative tightening. Basically what it means they're sucking liquidity out of the market. It's the opposite of quantitative easing, and they're raising interest rates. When you raise interest rates, you slow the economy down. It's their main tool to fight inflation, okay? That's what they're trying to do. They call it price stability. That's the fancy word.
I saw it like 9.5%.
It's really bad, and it's way worse than that, really. I mean, you go to the gas station, does it look like 9.5%? No, that's total BS. The way they actually measure inflation is ridiculous. They've changed it multiple times. And if you think about it,
They don't tell anybody.
Well, no, it's
tell,
technically public.
Yeah, but yeah, exactly.
They don't want anybody to know this.
You need to
though.
like do your research.
No logical person thinks inflation's out 9.5%. That's ridiculous. I mean, buy anything.
And the thing is,
it's
I think,
not 9.5%.
I think too, is a lot of people don't, like myself, is like, I'm just like, I don't think I can really change it myself, so I don't really pay that much attention to it.
Dude, I get that.
You know, it's like, okay, inflation's going up. All I can do is really grind and get more money.
That's it.
That's all I think about.
That's the way you need to think about it, honestly, because you can't save your way to wealth.
Yeah. Well, do you believe that?
No, I know that. I know that. You can't save your way to wealth.
You don't think so?
I know so. Because think about it. And maybe that comes off really strong. Because people are like, I disagree. But really think about it. Is if you're saving money in U.S. dollars, you are holding money in an asset that is inflationary by design. By design. So when Nixon took us off the gold standard, or he was the person.
Well, it would matter how much money you're making, though.
Yeah,
and it would be. Let's just say it would be stupid, but you could.
I mean, it's super inefficient.
Yeah,
It'd be
that's a good way to put it.
Yeah,
super inefficient.
The average person is not going to save their way to wealth. It's just not going to happen. I'm sorry. If you're making $250K a year and you're spending very little, okay.
I'm happy to see that conversation coming about more in the past decade, because growing up it was always in the old heads too. It's like save every penny scraper.
Yeah.
But there's two other sides though, is because there's people though and the fact of the matter though is you don't need to save and do this, but the fact of the matter to me is the people that I know that are the most frugal are the most wealthy.
Well, think about this for a second. No, and I respect that, but the thing is they're not just saving money; they're investing money.
Yeah, well, yeah.
That's the difference.
Yeah, 100%.
Because think about this. I mean, if anyone's like, no, I want to save. Hey, that's great. I'm not saying anything against that. But if you have $100,000 in the bank account and you had it there 1 year ago, that same $100,000 is now worth $90,000.
Yeah,
because of 10% of inflation.
That's so sad.
And it's way higher than 10%.
That's so sad.
Get out of here. That's ridiculous.
So sad.
And why would the government keep CPI, which is consumer price inflation? Why would they keep these inflation numbers low? Ask yourself. They have to, because that is what drives Social Security benefits. Okay, so if inflation is 10%,
whole nother fucking
this is
crazy
serious,
thing,
because that's why they have to manipulate the CPI numbers down. Inflation numbers down, because if true inflation came out and they're like, oh my gosh, we're at 25%, which is probably a lot more realistic on where we actually are. Seriously, at least 20, bare minimum 20 for real. I mean, go to the gas station. I mean, everybody knows this is not 10%. It's a joke, right? But if it came out, it was actually 20 to 25%. Everybody who's on Social Security says, "Hey, government, we need a raise on our Social Security by at least 25% just to maintain with inflation."
Well, I will say,
it's crazy.
My boss looked it up the other day. They did change the mileage rate.
Interesting.
To 57 cents, I think now, to 62 cents or something like that.
There you go. It's interesting. And these numbers are changing all the time.
But the reason, I guess to this point now talking about it, is like the reason that's changed though probably so quickly is it's not on the government. They're not paying that. Which is a trip to think about.
Yeah.
That was changed so quickly. I didn't even know that. That's 5 cents. What if we added 5 more? What if we were like, oh, hey, we're going to take down 5% of gas prices? It's just interesting that when it's not on them, it's that quick of a change.
It's interesting, isn't it? Well, it benefits them because all politicians are business people.
Well, and this is a perfect segue for what I want to talk about.
That's their write-offs.
Because we've talked about this before, and we're both believers that cannabis can help change the economy right now.
Yes.
Right?
Do you want me to finish about the trading thing or no?
Yeah.
Are you sure? Because I was curious because you asked about what would be my advice to people who are traders or who wanted to get into trading. Do you want me to finish that?
Yeah. I thought we were talking about. I thought we moved on from that. Honestly,
no. My bad. I've only finished one. So the first part is if you want to just get in, buy it, and forget about it. Right now, we're continuing to raise interest rates, but at some point, the narrative will flip. It'll reverse, where we will stop raising interest rates and we'll move back to quantitative easing, which is basically stimulus checks. As soon as that happens, that represents the bottom of the market almost every time historically. So usually that represents the bottom of the market, or we just hit the bottom. So if in 3 months from now, which I think this will happen around October, before October, personally because of the elections, which is a different conversation. But I think it'll happen before October, is they'll start talking about stimulus checks.
What elections?
Midterm elections are coming up.
Okay.
Yeah, so obviously every 4 years is the presidential, every 2 years is the midterms for Congress and things like that. Yeah, so I think we're going to see more stimulus checks being talked about. Why? Because they're going to buy votes.
We saw that. I think you pulled that article up about Californians getting stimulus checks.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's really about buying votes. We see a lot of stuff around elections. It's just what it is.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I'll let you finish. I keep interrupting you.
You're good because it's an in-depth answer, but it is really important. If someone is listening to this and they do want to get investing, this could be really valuable to them. So I hope this comes across clear is that, at some point, the conversation we'll talk about from quantitative tightening, which is sucking liquidity out of the markets, and raising interest rates. So whoa. We need to slow down raising interest rates. We need to start talking about quantitative easing, which is money printing, where we're going to start talking about stimulus checks again. As soon as that happens, that generally speaking tends to be the bottom of the markets, and then prices will start going up from there. So as soon as we see that conversation start to take place, boom, buy in, forget about it. Buy in and just hold and forget about it. My second piece of advice for someone who wants to get in and start.
Real shit. That's what I did when COVID first started and worked out.
Well, perfect example of that, Jack. So think about this is crazy. It is the perfect example to understand this concept. When COVID hit in March of 2020, the economy went into the shitter, right? Everyone's getting fired from their jobs, right? Everything is going down. And then all of a sudden, very quickly, there's a massive rebound in the stock market. Do you know what I'm talking about? Maybe you remember this, maybe you don't. But basically, everyone was getting fired from their jobs.
Well, it seems so fake. Like, this is not real.
Right.
That's how it feels now. It's like, there's no way. It doesn't make sense.
It's not real.
But I think that was apparent to a layman, if you will, like me.
Yeah. No,
at that point when I was like, oh, this isn't real. Like, I've always thought that, but I'm like, from somebody that doesn't study this shit, I'm like.
But you're right, because the average person's like, they're picking up. They're like, wait a second, the economy's going down, but the stock market is just rebounding like instantaneously. It went straight down and then just flew straight up.
It's weird.
Right, because the stock market is not based on the economy. They have really nothing to do with each other, like almost nothing. Very little to do with each other. It's very interesting when you start getting into it. But that's the perfect example where the actual economy is going down, but the stock market is going up. Why was the stock market going up? Because of the money printers. We went into massive stimulus mode. So what that means is they put interest rates basically down to $0. So me being let's say I was a billionaire CEO. Okay, interest rates are basically zero. So I'm going to take a massive loan at 0%. And what am I going to do? I'm going to buy a bunch of my own company's stocks. They're called buybacks. I'm going to buy back my own company stock. And this is what every single company in America does because it's 100% legal and designed by politicians. And it doesn't matter about party. This is not a political thing. All politicians are business owners, period, both sides of the aisle. So this is designed literally by design. And so as interest rates go to zero, all the business owners take massive loans for free at 0% interest, buy their stocks, and the stock market goes flying. It's the perfect correlation between economy going down, stock market going up, and it all comes down to money printing, period.
So when's the death point?
Great question. Every reserve currency up into the US dollar eventually has crippled. Okay, this goes back from Portugal and then the Dutch and then Britain and now the US dollar. That's basically the transition. And of course, it goes all the way back to the Ottoman Empire, Roman Empire. Eventually what happens is there's such a massive issue with inflation because our money isn't based on anything. We have a debt-based currency. Okay, because when Nixon took us off the gold, we've been in a bubble since day one. So we're just printing money. So you're in the seesaw of raising interest rates and money printing.
Well,
that's what it is.
And then just to go back for a second, because we've talked about this on other podcasts, is like, do you think there was another option potentially? I don't know if I ever asked you that, like when he got rid of the gold standard.
Oh, there's always another option. We could have stayed on the gold standard.
Or we could have made another gold, silver, copper, made anything else. It could be like a kind of NFT thing in a way. It's like anything else. Like it could be glasses, right? It's like we decide that we have these 100,000 pieces of marbles. We have 100,000 marbles in here that are worth this. It's like actually holding that something tangible. Or
no. You're right, because
except like gold and silver actually are functional metals and materials.
Yes. See, you're right, but unfortunately, history has repeated itself again, and it literally just comes down to human greed.
So and that's where there's gonna have to be a reset one day.
Oh, there will be, and it's already starting to happen. So there's a really large organization called the IMF, International Monetary Fund. The IMF is like, think about, like, these are like the banks that run the central banks of the world. You have like governments, the U.S., France, China, Russia. Then you have larger, like the World Bank, right? The IMF. These are the organizations that are, quote unquote, supposed to like monitor the banking world and making sure that money works for everybody, right? Quote, heavy quotes. They're even calling for, last year, there was a huge article that just got swept under the rug on purpose, guaranteed, that the IMF was calling for a new Bretton Woods conference. The Bretton Woods conference actually happened in the 1900s, and this is when the world, quote unquote, decided together collectively that the U.S. dollar was going to be the world reserve currency. It's called the Bretton Woods Conference. Very vital. This is following the World Wars. It's very important information. This is when we went from the pound being the world reserve currency into the U.S. dollar. This happened early 1900s.
It's going to be the
Chinese is for sure coming next.
What's the name of the currency?
Renminbi. Renminbi.
Okay.
Yeah.
Renminbi.
Yeah, renminbi. Yeah. That's right. So that's for sure going to be the next world reserve currency, in my opinion. I mean, a lot of smart people, not me, but a lot of smart people think there'll be at least 3 times their economy, at least 3 times the size of the U.S. pretty soon here.
Sure.
That's very interesting. But that is eventually what's going to happen for sure. I mean, at least everything is pointing to that direction. We'll see. But long story short, because I know
I keep interrupting you. No, it's
no. You're good. I'm super down a rabbit hole here because this stuff is so interesting. But even the IMF is calling for a new Bretton Woods conference because they're realizing the way that the world reserve currency is working right now, being the U.S. dollar, is so beyond out of whack, so manipulated, like so messed up, not serving all countries. They're even calling for a new Bretton Woods conference.
Honestly, if I didn't fucking live here, I would have called for that fucking 50 years ago.
Everybody's been calling it for a long time.
Like these motherfuckers out here just eating fucking Big Macs and just blowing fucking stimulus checks.
Yeah.
I mean, shit, I don't know about other countries getting stimulus checks and shit.
Yeah.
But that's why.
No, they're doing it too.
Well,
they're doing it too.
I imagine there's a bunch that aren't too. But like, just imagine.
Yeah.
That's what I think about. Actually, I hadn't really thought about this just now. It's like, just that other perspective. Like, all right, so you're telling me that somebody in America just got a $1,200 check and is getting paid unemployment and is not doing shit.
Correct. Printed money.
I'm like,
monopoly money.
But like, imagine being like some fucking worker busting your ass for like what would be like $10 a day American, like, and you hear these stories of getting a $1,200 check. Like, that would fucking be my year.
And we wonder why so many people want to immigrate here.
Yes.
I mean, let's just keep it real.
Yeah, and that's where it's like
some real shit.
And that's a whole nother thing I'm not gonna go down. But no, I want to give my 2 cents. It's like there needs to be some sort of order to it. But I'm all about letting people come here.
Yeah,
I'm all about the American dream. And honestly, I think I should be proven more. I would be down to have somebody come here from a foreign country and put people to the test, like put them side by side, like on a level. Like if there's like some American who's like, let's just say living by themselves, fucking not doing shit, put them against somebody that wants to come to this country, make a fucking something of themselves, and shared places. Get them the fuck out of here.
Dude.
That's savage. And that's
no, but it's really not savage. I don't think it's savage at all.
It's real though.
It's libertarian. Really.
Yeah.
Just keeping it real.
Yeah. I don't even know.
It's some real shit, man. But yeah, so anyways, that's we're really moving down.
But
no, it's good though. But for someone who wanted to be much more interactive, I would say go to tradingview.com. TradingView.com. You heard it here. I'm telling you, it's the best, one of the best websites on the internet. I'm serious. Click on the chart button and you can start learning how to chart and look at how markets actually move. Then just go on YouTube. How to trade Forex, Forex. You'll go down such a rabbit hole. I mean, you just want to spend days and days and days on there. Seriously, just get educated. It's a whole new language. It's going to take time. I've been trading actively for over 2 years, still not profitable, still not doing it full time. It's very, very hard. I really wish I would have had better guidance in the beginning. If I sat down with somebody, like I've given some sessions, like some people have reached out and I've like done some training and stuff. And I mean, like just to kind of walk people through in 2 hours, hey, there's a billion pieces of information, blow all that off. This is what you need to know. This is what you need to know. This is what you need to know. You could expedite someone's learning 1,000-fold. Like one kid I was working with, I think we did 4 hours of training and he probably learned what took me probably 16 months to learn, literally in 4 hours.
Well, and that's why
Seriously.
that's why I want to have you on just because you're my homie. But it's like also too that was like that's why I'm happy to talk to you on a podcast because I know that it's like some legit value.
Yeah,
You know, it's like,
yeah.
And a lot it's even over my head. That's why I ask stupid questions. But I feel like there's a lot of people. It's like that old thing that teachers will say is like, there's probably someone else in the room with that same question.
No, everyone's thinking it, dude.
Yeah.
I had no idea. I'm telling you, it's a whole new language, man. I knew nothing really about this. I was always interested in economics, but I really didn't understand a lot of this stuff. Really until 2 years ago, I just became, I mean, it's just so interesting to me because it's history, it's economics, and it's incentives. It's how the world really works.
Yeah, I was about to say, if you understand that, you understand basically everything. Money-wise, most of it. But there's other cannabis industry is crazy. And, you know, that's what I want to get into this right now please, because there's a perfect opening how deep we just dove because I just saw today when I Googled, because I always Google weed news, right? So I Googled before you came over, I'll do it right now on here, weed news, and the Senate, Democrats in the Senate just proposed a decriminalization bill. Ooh. So there was a bunch of stocks that went up like 10, 12, 7%.
Fantastic.
Like in the past day.
Nice.
So I'm going to be real, I just looked at the headline. You know, I like to do things like organically.
Yeah.
So I'm going to type it in again. I haven't actually read any articles. But I just want to get your insight on that because we've talked about it before and throughout COVID and everything. It makes so much sense. We should have been legal a while ago to help our economy get boosted. So what are your thoughts on that? I know we talked about it just as homies. Like just it makes sense, right? Like,
oh yeah.
What else is there in the game that can do that and also actually help people feel better? Like and be probably better people for the most part. Some people aren't meant to smoke weed. I understand that 100%.
Yeah.
But make our fucking country a lot of fucking money, help lives, help people stop drinking as much, help people just relax and be, you know, a better person. That's me just being like a stoner kind of guy.
Yeah.
But on the stock shit, it's like kind of crazy. And I want to talk more before we get into like what I'm saying, like, you know, the humanitarian or whatever element of like the health and the like medicinal side of the actual stock side. Like, do you think that this is purposely being done for manipulation and it will never happen? Or do you think that it might be something real?
I think there's a very good chance it'll be something real, and I do believe that for a few different reasons. I will say this, is that any time a stock, not crypto, but a stock all of a sudden just flies up 5, 10, 12% in a day, always there'll be what's called a retracement. So what I mean is, let's just, for really easy numbers, let's say a company was at $100 a stock and then it goes up to $112 in one day, right? It's gone up 12%. It's always going to come back down a little bit. Always. The reason why is because if I bought it for $100 and it just went up to $12, I made 12% a day, I'm taking profits, right?
Yeah.
Because most people are not long-term holders. Most people trade the markets, like banks, hedge funds. They are day traders. They're in and out of the market very quickly, which is why all these markets just fly up and down all day, every day. The real big money is traders. So if you understand that, is if it's at $100, it goes up to 112, that's going to come down for sure a little bit because everyone's gonna be taking profits. So that's where I'd start off. Just some people.
I guess, and I'll read through this here.
Yeah.
But like, do you think when I first saw this, I'm like in my head, I'm like maybe, and after hearing you, I'm like, are they maybe running out of ways to manipulate the market? So maybe cannabis is the new way, because
I wouldn't
as from like a
yeah.
because it's so easy. Like it's like because I thought it was actually a thing, and I just reading the headlines. Now I'm actually reading this first paragraph here. It says Senate Democrats plan to introduce a bill to decriminalize marijuana at the federal level next week. A person familiar with the matter said, although the legalization faces long odds in the evenly divided chamber, Majority Leader Chuck Schumer worked with the senators, and blah 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 blah. But it's like, does that make sense? What I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I'm following exactly. I mean. So there's a deeper answer that if you're cool with, I'd like to go into because, and this is more from a macro. I'm a total macro thinker. I'm sure that's coming across really clear to, people listening to this. And if people are still listening to this, hey, shout out to y'all. I'd love to connect with anybody on here, for real. I'd love to connect. I love talking about this stuff. What's really interesting, and this, once again, this is super macro. So if this gets, too nerdy, let me know. But any time when a country's balance sheet is really, really, really off, like America's is right now, you only have two options, period. You have to spend less than you make, which is never going to happen. It hasn't happened once, really. You look, we're at $30 trillion in debt, in debt. It's insane. It's literally insane. And we're not slowing down. We're just always spending more. We're not going to spend less. So your other option is we have to increase GDP, right? To increase GDP, usually the only ways you can do this is you need to start new industries. It's really, really difficult to increase one current industry to a point that it's going to completely solve the problems. The best way to do it is start a new industry, foster a new industry. And that's why I do think cannabis makes sense, as well as EV, right? The electric cars. A lot of people think that, we're trying to save the world with greenhouse gases. Yes, I think there's part of it, but it's really about
that's where
birthing a new industry.
I'll have some pushback
jobs,
there, though.
New GDP.
I'll have some pushback on the
Sure.
EV.
Yeah.
Because I completely agree on cannabis.
Yeah.
But on the EV thing, there's already a whole established automobile world in America.
Right.
So all it would be doing is changing it to electric. It would actually end up costing a lot more money, but there would still be jobs made and there would still be money poured into it. But that industry, the automobile industry is already established in a pretty strong way. Of course, electric's not as much.
Correct.
But you know what I'm saying? Like all that would just have to be transferred over. So
Yeah.
that's where I feel like it's a valid example, but I still feel like it doesn't compare.
No, I agree. And it just kind of like a side.
Yeah, I'm not.
No, I hear
being
it.
a dick or anything.
No. I didn't take it like that. But no, it's like an accompanying kind of thing to cannabis. And I think those are just two. But yeah, I think cannabis is fantastic.
Yeah, you're right, though. Look at Tesla's done. It's crazy.
Dude,
There's
yeah,
no
it's
knock on
amazing.
that. Yeah, it's like, and that's just me too, just being fucking cannabis guy.
No, and I get it. But yeah, like that's kind of like the bigger macro is that I think. So, generally speaking, when you have a balance sheet that's so lopsided, it's so bad, we have to start new industries. It's the fastest way to increase GDP. So cannabis is just a landslide idea. It's honestly economically absurd that it hasn't been done. All personal emotions aside, from an economic standpoint, it's embarrassing.
Well, that's the crazy thing, though. That goes back to
beyond stupid.
Well, that's what goes back to a lot of shit. It's also an economic thing for the few that are involved with and people talk about it. I talk about all my stuff all the time. I'm not going to get into like a huge rant about it, but like, this shit's real with pharmaceuticals and all this.
Oh yeah.
And now that's what's going to make it become legal, is because they finally see, hey, I think that's what they've been waiting for. We have a choice. We can keep making money. We can keep making money because it's finally hitting a point where we don't really have a choice.
We have to,
or somebody else is going to, and then we're going to be fucked.
Yeah.
That's the way I view it, is kind of like a hypocrite of pharmaceutical world.
Yeah.
But also, that being said, there's beauty in pharmaceuticals too. And I agree with that. But it's like, what hurts me that I think about sometimes is, imagine if we had been doing the research we've been doing into some stupid fucking drugs like it just helps people's lives and shit. They're like Adderall and painkillers and shit. Like,
Yeah.
imagine if we put that money and research into cannabis,
Oh
where
my
we'd be
goodness.
today.
Oh yeah, that's a tough thought. Yeah, I mean it's wild.
Dude, like I told you, my owner literally got an email from somebody. I don't even know if I should say this, but like I told you, I think about like
Yeah.
they're buying that and giving it to a loved one, and it like changing their lives, just a CBD element.
Yeah, CBD.
And that's why I feel like talking to you is super dope, because you provide that macro element to it, and I like to like, and then I just kind of
the micro.
yeah, I'm a,
No, dude, I love the
Sometime-
micro. The
yeah.
micro's so fun, you know.
but in general, I am more of a macro thinker. I'd
Okay.
agree with you. I'd agree with you. I don't know. I feel like actually no, depends what it is. I'm pretty
I would agree with that. I think it
yeah, I'm
depends.
pretty macro for most part, I'd say.
I would
Because
say-
I'm a believer. I like to sum everything up into the most simple thing
Okay.
possible. So I think that's basically what it is, right? I'm like,
Right.
all right, how can we make this the most simple thing we can?
Sure.
Let's boil it all down. Because I
Right.
feel like even simple things, like even doing a video or whatever you're doing, it's like, all right, let's just chill for a second. Let's boil it down, and let's get back into me not getting distracted. Because I'm. So do you think? Let me actually.
Let's talk about it
Yeah,
because
okay, so let me just read through this. Like I said, I haven't yet. Sorry if I bore you guys out there. So, Majority Leader Chuck Schumer worked with Senators Cory Booker of New Jersey and Ron Whedon of Oregon on this. The senator circulated a draft of the bill last year and made tweaks after feedback from Senate committees. The Cannabis Administration and Opportunity Act would remove marijuana from the list of drugs covered by Controlled Substances Act. Fucking fools. States, however, can still maintain and create prohibitions on production and distribution of marijuana. Dude, look at this chart, though. You're a chart guy. The pot stocks surged on the news. Canadian cannabis producer Tilray Brands soared as much as 20% in its biggest jump in 4 months. Investors surged into other Canadian licensed producers that have been expanding into U.S. markets, including Canopy Growth, which surges 11%. U.S. MSOs also rallied, with Green Thumb Industries climbing to its highest point in 1 month. So it's still like month timing, but somebody trading on a level like you are, I have to imagine these stats are pretty interesting.
no, it is. Actually, let me ask you this. So I can't really see that chart.
Yeah.
So what's that value at right before the massive jump up?
Like right here.
No, to the left of that.
Right here.
Yep. What's that value at on the chart?
310.
So 310, and what did it go up to? 370.
380 some.
Okay, so if I was gonna buy that, I'd be patient and I'd wait for it to come back to about 315, 310.
Because there's no way a lot of times you would have seen that. There's no, and that's the crazy thing about the manipulation in the market. I think that you're saying, correct me if I'm wrong, is there's no way you could know that this bill was going to potentially be introduced to the market on this day.
Lobbyists.
Yeah.
You
So
see, people are on the inside.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Oh, it's
So as an
so
owner,
manipulated.
as an owner of these,
Yeah.
you would have no idea. So your advice is very valid and perfect. I didn't even think about that. You're saying, hey, wait, it's gonna drop back, and I think most people would think that
It
Just
will,
with-
because it's
I think it's kind of
profit taking.
Yeah, it's kind of common sense
profit
from
taking.
somebody at least in the industry. It's kind of common sense to me too. It's like, all right, if they haven't really increased their revenue that much, like how is this going to maintain? Right?
It's hot air.
Yeah.
That's what it is. You know, because people are excited, and rightfully so. So this is what I'll say about it. It's number one. I think most people can agree that cannabis. I mean, it's ridiculous that we're this behind on cannabis. It's absurd, from personal standpoint to a health perspective, from a research perspective, then just economics. It's ridiculous. You know, we have to increase GDP, and this is fantastic. I don't like to touch on politics because people are so ridiculous one way or another, and I'm not really political. I'm more economic, but there's really no better way to buy votes or to get votes going into an election than to touch on certain subjects that really value one party or another. It's not a coincidence we're seeing a lot of really big headlines this year for social issues. This, that.
Well, and that's where cannabis is such an interesting, though, also issue or topic in general, is because there's people on both sides. Like,
But it'll bring a lot of
It's a-
voters.
yeah,
People
that's
who
the thing
aren't
is,
going to
like-
vote will vote just because
or
of
it could
this.
turn somebody from one party to another.
Absolutely.
Like,
Yeah.
oh, like,
Yeah.
because so many people, like, it's just such a topic that it just, like we're saying, it's just mind blowing. And so many people say the same thing.
Yeah.
And
But why is it coming out now?
I was talking to somebody about this with the cannabis lounge space, and I was like, wouldn't it be crazy to think about if cannabis prohibition never happened, right?
Yeah.
And we were drinking, because cannabis beverages would have been around way sooner if prohibition never happened, because they would have focused on that, right?
Yeah.
So wouldn't it be crazy if that actually happened? And then it comes to 2016, let's say.
Yeah.
Or let's just say 2020 to make it even. And somebody starts pitching alcohol drinks. What's the pitch? Hey, this is going to make you feel good, but you're going to get sick from it, and you're going to feel like shit the next morning. You're going to potentially do things you regret. Blah, 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 blah. I was really high the other night, and I thought about that, and it's a stupid thought, but I'm like, imagine reverse thinking that. Like, how would you pitch that? Like, cannabis is such a good pitch, and it's so hard. Whereas, like, think about that.
It's really interesting you said, because I just watched a video like 2 days ago, and this guy was talking about the scam of America, how we live in an alcohol culture. It's the only drug or poison. I mean, it's a poison. If you consume too much of it, it kills you. It's a poison. It's a drug, right? It's the only legal drug or poison where if you don't consume it, people will be surprised, mad, peer pressure you to consume this poison. It's very interesting to really slow down and think about it.
Yeah.
It's the only one. Oh, you don't use heroin? Come on, dude. We're all going to the, like, it's the only poison that's really pressured upon. It's very fascinating, but it's everywhere. It's the sporting events. Great, let's do it. Oh, you're at home for Thanksgiving. You're getting fucked up with the fam.
Well,
It's our culture.
Even
It's
with
very
this, it's interesting to say this because I was talking to a buddy from the lounge today, and I realized this when I did that comedy show for 420 a couple of years ago. It was the homie from Undercover Brother, Andy Griffin, I think is his name. But like these acts were killing it, right? As they always do. And then even here, that it's just a different timing. This homie Sean from the lounge was saying is like, comedians have prepped in a lot of their jokes for an alcohol crowd. Rowdy, upbeat, know how to hit right there. Cannabis crowds are different. They're really stoned. Takes them a little bit to get it sometimes. And I've witnessed that firsthand from like these pretty famous acts getting up there. But he was talking about today with other acts getting up, and that's like kind of going back to what we're saying. And it's just so interesting.
It's
that
fascinating.
Like even to that level, it's been conditioned in terms of like a comedic act. The timing of that due to alcohol, and like we're both people that enjoy drinks.
Yeah, I mean, definitely.
But it's like, but the fact of the matter is, we're both people that enjoy drinks, but we also see that, and that's most people. I think is like most people who enjoy both are like, all right, I like drinking too, but obviously weed's better.
It is. I mean, just look at the long-term impacts. I mean, alcohol just crushes your organs. Vital organs.
Destroy. Yeah, how many people have used to be like, yeah, I like it. Yeah, you have a fucked up, life. I got a fucking pothead mom and dad. It's like, no, my parents are like alcoholics or all this shit. It's like,
they're violent. No one's got a violent stoner dad. If they're out there, I don't know them. Do you? I don't.
I did actually.
Oh, okay. My bad.
But alcohol was involved was the thing.
Sure.
It wasn't straight stoner.
Sure. No, I get you. Yeah.
That's dude. Alcohol, as we know, you sent me that funny shit on Instagram of like,
which one?
Like it's like when you're 20. It's like you can sleep on a couch with somebody's hoodie and wake up and like ready to grind. Like that's how I felt. Like I could be like 20, even like up until 25. I think 27 it really hit me. Up until then, I could go out at night and party and feel like get up early and like feel like, oh, I'm gonna go grind for like 12 hours. Now you saw me the other day when I partied. I'm like, dude, I'm hurt. And so, like, even if I do the right things, if I stay hydrated, if I get a good meal in the night before, it still hurts different.
It's the truth, man.
We heard it too growing up.
Oh man, I hate it.
Now we're those people saying it.
Oh, dude.
And we're saying it. I said to my younger son, because I remember people used to say it to me. I'm like, oh, whatever, dude.
Yeah, dude.
It's one of those things. It doesn't hit you till it actually does, right?
Yeah,
right. It's like, but that's also too. We've been there together, even with the cannabis beverages. That's why I'm such a huge fan. Is you can still have a couple drinks of alcohol if you want, and still like maybe work in like a cannabis at the end. Like I know that's a topic that needs to be treated like very like that's a fine line to walk.
Yeah.
Talking cannabis and drinking.
Yeah.
especially when it comes to cannabis beverages and mixing. But it's like, I'm all for that. If it can help as an alcohol alternative fully, or if it can just be you have one cocktail and then maybe you have one weed drink.
Man,
Like,
Jack, I love that. I'm glad I'm glad for your podcast. I'm grateful for your podcast, and I'm hoping that other people are grateful for it as well. So if so, give Jack's video a like and leave a comment. My goodness, this is good content because this is a movement, and I agree that especially the cannabis beverage game, which hats off, because I had never really done cannabis beverages until you, and myself being a low dose consumer. I'm not someone who's going to, smoke a whole blunt to myself. That's just not me. That'd be really wasteful for me. I do really well on low doses of THC because I still want to do things and I enjoy the creative aspect and the creative outlet of it and, designing things and creating and thinking outside the box. And I think cannabis beverages are perfect. I think they're perfect.
I love it.
Because it's great from a creativity standpoint. It's fun. It's different. It makes you feel like you're consuming alcohol. And considering that's so ingrained in our culture, you're feeling like you're having that effect, but you're not. It's healthier. You're not smoking. You don't smell. Let's be honest. I've noticed some of it's much more cleaner because obviously, you're creating something.
And consistent, with cleaner.
Thank you.
The consistency is huge, I think, because even somebody making all my own edibles, it's so unpredictable.
Right.
Even smoking, you could even buy the same stuff. And even that being said, with edibles I've had, drinks I've had, there's always could still be little inconsistencies.
Sure.
Because I've had my favorite edible brand that I buy, and every now and then I'll get a batch that's not quite as good from their pills, but it's like part of it too. I mean.
Yeah.
But in general, I'm like just too granular sometimes too.
Yeah.
Even, but it's like I love hearing you say that as somebody who's kind of on the outside of the market in a lot of ways because it's just really hitting now, and it really hasn't even yet. And that's where I feel like I'm so thankful to be at the forefront of it because, dude, I'm telling you, bro, and we've talked about it before. Imagine 10 years from now, dude, this is gonna be so normal. People drinking weed.
Yeah.
There's going to be big companies getting into it. Look, I got that Jones soda can bottle right over there behind you. I did a video about that. I think I told you about that. Jones Soda, they're a big soda brand out of East Coast. I used to grow up.
Yeah, dude, I know Jones Soda.
I used to get slices of pizza in Jersey and drink that shit. Jones Soda.
And they did a cannabis one?
Yeah, it's called Mary Jones.
Dude, I had no idea.
Yeah.
Whoa, that's legit. I didn't know that. Yeah.
Of course, like the regular soda, super sugary.
Right.
That thing has like 100% daily value, like 80%. I'm talking about my ass here, but probably 75. I don't know what the value is. There's a lot of sugar, but that being said, I'm a huge fan. I love it. And that's always another line to walk in the cannabis industry, right? Is like, I have a nostalgic feeling for that product and there's certain things, but it's like, when's the level to cut off where it might ruin the little man who's been in the game doing shit right for so long, the little grower, the little manufacturer, the little distribution company. When is that point? And that's why it's always been, we've talked Amazon before and stuff on this podcast too, is like, I'm a fan of getting it to the masses. I'm 100% fan of that. I believe anybody should have that. But what's the change in that market? Maybe you should be smart enough to know the market and just change with the market. That's part of the American way. So I don't really have I'm on a rant here, but it's just one of those things where it's like, I'm conscious of personally.
Right.
Is where it's like, even buying that Jones Soda, I don't know much about their story, but I'm like, they're a big brand. They came in, they got some good footing right away. I have a feeling for it, but it's like, and I'm not undercutting anybody else. I buy everybody's beverages, but just in the future in general, it's like, what if all of a sudden Coca-Cola made cannabis-infused Cokes?
And of course they will. They probably already have it.
Yeah, so they're probably working on it. So what's that? Like, that's what I think about. If they came into the market and is a multi-state operator, and let's just say they had a licensing in place because they have so much money to every legal state.
Well, yeah, they've distribution
and they undercut
unlock.
Everybody on pricing.
Yep. That's 100% going to happen.
So they undercut everybody on pricing.
Right.
They give it to, and the crazy thing about it is that's the beverage market, right? A lot of the beverage market is kind of curious.
Go deeper about that.
Like kind of curious, like people who never smoked before, don't like edibles, maybe had a smoke or two, even like yourself, we've smoked before, but don't even smoke that much.
Right.
Just people who are kind of curious, like, oh, I've heard good things about cannabis in the news, and my friends say good things about it.
Yeah.
Let me check it out and see what it's about. And then if they see a brand that clicks in their head that they've grown up with, i.e. Coca-Cola, Pepsi, which are, Gatorade, Powerade, whatever the drink is under that umbrella company, with that, the beverage market's the best place to do. I don't think anybody can necessarily come in and undercut some of these brands that have built up in flower.
Sure. Respect.
They could, but there's still that more of a culture. I guess there's not just, I guess what I'm saying is there's not as much of a culture behind cannabis beverages yet. So that, I think, is why it's going to be a super interesting market for these huge companies that have already been established. I've never really put that in words, just thinking about it now.
No, I like it. I know we've talked about this before. Eventually there'll be a day where you can get on your Amazon Prime account and order, a 20-pack of pre-rolls. It looks like a pack of cigarettes. It shows up and it's cannabis. And you're getting it delivered same day.
So I have a question for you.
It's crazy.
If you were sitting at your house and you could go online, let's say Amazon, and you saw a 6-pack of cannabis-infused Coke, or what's your favorite soda?
Mellow Yellow. I'm just kidding. Actually, I don't really drink a lot of soda. I'm trying to think
Or your favorite drink? What's your favorite drink?
I love Sprite. I'd say Sprite's one of the greatest sodas.
Okay, so
shout out to Kobe.
So you see a cannabis-infused Sprite.
Yeah.
And you see a cannabis-infused lemon lime soda.
Sounds
what
fantastic.
are you going to buy?
It sounds delicious.
Well, what would you buy?
Wait.
For the same price point.
Wait, I'm sorry. Back up. What was it?
I'm saying, what would you buy? Like picture like a Kroger lemon lime soda.
Yeah.
That's cannabis-infused.
Yeah.
For the same price point as a Sprite soda that's infused.
Definitely taking Sprite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what's crazy to me. That's just hitting me even. I've thought about this before, not even this deep though. Is like they have that market share.
100%.
They could come in the game right now.
It's capitalism. Man.
Yeah.
It's gonna take. It always does.
But think about it. If actually, I don't think weed's gonna become legal in the next couple of years personally. But if it did, that'd be fucking awesome. But
I think what you said was really smart. Probably about 20 minutes ago, is that when we were talking about the pharmaceuticals, like you're saying now, they're feeling like they have to get involved, and you're kind of saying because it's. And I've always believed this. Wall Street, the powers that be that run America, they usually won't make things legal until they can personally benefit from it or legally tax it accordingly. Until they can profit or control it, they most likely won't legalize it.
I'd agree. Yeah.
And so, now where cannabis is getting so large, the same thing is happening in crypto. It's now getting it's actually interesting. Interestingly enough, there's actually a really similar correlation, because now we're getting to the point where crypto is getting really into the Wild West. It's been a very volatile year in crypto, and a lot of big hedge funds have gone out. Wall Street people are losing money. Banks are losing money. When the powers that be, the lobbyists and politicians, start losing money, they're the politicians. Now they start bringing in regulation. That's what happens, right? So then they find a way to control it and tax it, and then boom, all of a sudden it becomes legal. Now once they got their hands in the pockets. So it's like any time that I think as we continue to see cannabis, same with crypto, regulation, that underground, like that underlying regulation get passed. And now the banks, like I keep seeing things about cannabis where they're trying to make sure that the cannabis banking regulations are in place.
Which has not happened.
Correct. So I don't think anything is going to happen until that takes place.
Well, and that's what's crazy, bro, is like what the industry's had to do. And I know I talk about this all the time, is I'm thankful for that in a lot of ways. That's just me being optimistic, though.
Yeah.
Is it's forced us to be so creative in a lot of ways, from marketing to actually the banking level.
Right.
But it's also really sad, too, because I think I told you, like, before, it's like when I first started True Buzz maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I was looking at doing an edible, right? I told you the story right about it, and I'm like, how do people usually do this? And like, they usually get like 5 or 6 credit cards, and like $100,000 worth of credit cards, and I'm like, what? What?
Yeah, dude, it's some crazy shit.
Dude, it's a crazy game, man. But shit, a little longer than I thought. We've been going for a minute, but it's been good, man.
Good
and
content.
I would keep going, but we're gonna cut a little short because we're about to do some content for you. And where can people find the content that we're gonna do today across your other platforms? Is it gonna be Market Movers, or is it your personal account, or what?
Yeah, I'd say people should follow. I actually don't have Facebook. I actually just deactivated it.
Same.
I like yesterday actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, not in the Facebook game really anymore. So people can find me on Instagram on specifically my business
So
page.
we'll be a hangout in Meta, man.
What's that?
Can we hang out in Meta still?
The metaverse? Yeah, dude. I guess we could. I'm not really deep in that
I'm
shit.
kidding, dude.
That's funny though. But yeah, specifically go on Instagram and it's Market Movers Inc. official, like incorporated. So Market Movers Inc. official is the Instagram, and it's literally like the icon or the logo is like 2 M's. And yeah, people can find me on there. Follow. I post stuff about economics, geopolitical economics, world currencies, markets, market definitions that are really important to understand as a trading type aspects, cryptos I'm watching. And then if people want more long form, I actually have a podcast as well. It's called the Crypto Corner series. People can go on like literally Spotify. It's on there for free, as well as like an iPhone, like the podcast app. If you just type in The Freedom Society, and then specifically the Crypto Corner series I'm a guest on there pretty often. We got about 10 to 12. We actually just recorded another 3 podcasts on there, and we go very, very in depth. Anything crypto, specifically what's happening, regulations that we're watching, what we're looking at, how to manage crypto, how to buy it, how to sell it, taxes. It gets really, really nerdy on there, really intensely nerdy. So if people really want crypto content, check out, my Instagram page as well as the podcast.
Hell yeah. And I think it's going to be super cool, because I think just collaborating now and then way into the future is, just being homies is like, our worlds are pretty similar in a lot of ways, like we're saying, making the cannabis and crypto comparisons, and also just the fact of just being real like we were today. And like I always am in cannabis and you are in the stock and crypto world, is like, you got to, first of all, like actually care, be passionate about it, and know this shit's not going to happen overnight. You got to be willing to put in reps for fucking years.
Yeah.
Maybe you get lucky, maybe you don't. But it's like, that's a part of the game that I feel like is underestimated in a lot of ways. A lot of shit's tied up in a nice little bow in crypto and stocks, and especially in cannabis. And it's good to kind of demystify some of that stuff and just kick it one-on-one as a homie and dive deep. And, it's always a pleasure, bro.
Dude, let's shoot another one tomorrow.
All right. I'm going to stop it. All right, brother, let's get your content cranking, man.
Cool, man. Cheers, y'all.
Cheers, y'all.
Is that cut?
Yeah.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Dude, great.
I was playing it, wasn't?
I knew it.
Dude,
This is True Buzz, that Mary J. Now we ain't new to this. For my stoners and for my cannabis enthusiasts, never heard a show as good as this. Number one, it's the best. Bringing in many special guests in the industry of cannabis. Business owners to growers, even artists you know of. So sit back and just roll up. Perfect show for my smokers. True Buzz, hey.